माहिती दाखवा इंटरेस्ट.
Yeah, Divya, we are on live. You can start.
It's okay. Yeah.
So, a very good afternoon to everyone. I'm Divya, Zoo Education Officer. So, it gives me an immense pleasure to welcome you all for today's webinar session conducting on the occasion of World Penguin Day in collaboration with Veeramata Jijabai, Boswell Botanical Udyan and Zoo. Joined us today to speak us about the topic Humboldt Penguins Ecology, Captive Management and Conservation is Dr. Madhumita Kale.
Hi.
Dr. Madhumita Kale is the head veterinarian for the Humboldt Penguin section. She is the first veterinarian in India to successfully work with Humboldt penguins in captivity. She has completed her bachelor's in veterinary science and animal husbandry from Bombay Veterinary College. Further, she did her master's in veterinary sciences in wildlife health from Massey University, New Zealand. Humboldt penguins were brought to Mumbai Zoo in India for the first time in July 2016. The Vaikula Zoo's penguin enclosure is a state-of-art facility that recreates the penguin's natural habitat as much as possible. The zoo also has the breeding program for the Humboldt penguins, and 11 chicks have been hatched at the zoo in the recent years. The Humboldt penguins at Baikula Zoo are a valuable addition to the zoo's collection and an important part of its conservation efforts. Today, she will discuss with us the challenges faced by the wild penguins and conservation efforts, along with the captive management in detail and how they are successfully breed them in captivity in India. Over to you, ma'am, to please begin your talk.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. I will share my presentation now.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Can you all see the presentation? Hello.
No, ma'am, it's not visible.
One second. Is it visible now?
Yes, ma'am, visible.
Okay. So I will tell you a little bit about how we manage these penguins in captivity. Since it was the first time that they were bought in India, it was a very difficult task to manage them. I will also tell you all about a little bit about penguins in general, how they live in the wild, and the conservation efforts that are happening in the wild as well as in the captive scenario. Uh, to give an introduction about penguins, penguins are basically marine, highly specialized aquatic birds, and they mostly forage in the ocean. They spend most of the time foraging in the sea, and spend come on the land area only for nesting and molting. So there are a variety of species of penguins. There are 18, and now sometimes even people are saying that 20 different species of penguins. So these species of penguins, they range across a variety of habitats, right from the snowy Antarctic regions to rainforests in New Zealand. There are also penguins in tropical regions in Africa, South America. Um, yeah. So out of these 18 different species of penguins, the bigger species of penguins include king penguins and emperor penguins, which most of the people know about. They are not aware that penguins also reside in areas where there is no snow. They can also survive in temperate and tropical environments. So The smaller species of penguins or medium-sized penguins include Humboldt penguins, African penguins, Magellanic penguins, Galapagos penguins. And the smallest species of penguins is the little blue penguins, which reside in New Zealand, Australia. Um, these penguins have different adaptations because they are a highly marine, highly specialized aquatic bird. Their bodies have been streamlined in such a way that they can swim in a very fast manner in the oceans. They also their wings have been have been developed into flippers, which help them in swimming in the water. The feathers that they are very specialized. They provide them e- uh, ease in swimming as well as insulation and waterproofing. Penguins need waterproofing from their feathers in water because they won't be able to survive in such colder temperatures unless they have waterproofing with their feathers. So the cold water never really touches their skin. It's completely waterproof. If you see a penguin up close, if you ever come to Mumbai Zoo and see a penguin, you will see that their feathers are so tightly packed together. It is very different from a normal any other species of bird. They're very tightly packed together, and you can see that the water never touches their skin. On an average, the lifespan of a penguin is about 15 to 20 years, sometimes even 30 years in captivity. They reach sexual maturity by about 2 years of age. Some penguins reach by about years of age. Among these all 18 species of penguins, there are variations in the way they nest. Emperor penguins and king penguins, they don't really make nests. They keep the egg, they just lay one egg and they keep the egg on their feet, and the male mostly incubates the egg. Whereas in other different species of penguins, such as Humboldt and African penguins, these penguins gain maturity by 5 years of age, and they lay two eggs, and both the male and female they incubate the eggs in their nesting area, which can be burrows, caves, anything, or sand near the coastal region. So this is in general about penguins and how what are the different adaptations of their life. So now I will tell you a bit about Humboldt penguins in general, their wild environment, their feeding, reproduction, and threats. So Humboldt penguins are a medium-sized penguins which reside along the coastal regions of Chile and Peru. Their habitat, as you can see in the picture, mainly consists of rocky shorelines, and they live in a very short area, very small area where the Humboldt current is present. So this current is very important for their survival because it is a colder current, which along with the current it brings a good amount of nutrition and fish. So that's why they live in a very short area of between Chile and Peru, and they are mainly migratory birds, migratory penguins, which keep on migrating between Chile and Peru. Their feeding is also mainly dependent on this Humboldt current because it brings along with it a good amount of oily fish such as anchovies, mackerel, sardines, herring. Also, they eat other species of fish such as cephalopods and crustaceans like squids and krill. So these are the main feeding behavior or the main diet of Humboldt penguins. Reproduction, this species starts breeding from March up to December in the wild, and they have main two peaks of breeding in April and another peak in August and September. Mostly, this species lays two clutches in a year with two eggs per clutch. Uh, yeah. The threats that these penguins face uh, uh, in the wild, in the IUCN Red List, they are vulnerable and almost reaching to threatened now. They are faced with threats such as overfishing. The Peruvian fishing industry is a very huge industry, which is causing a lot of overfishing and decrease in their prey species like anchovies mainly. Also, they are highly threatened by human presence. It is a very timid species, and any human presence around them makes them scared, and they tend to leave their nest and run away, leaving behind eggs and orphan chicks. They are also threatened by habitat destruction and climate change. The climate change is causing the Humboldt current, which brings along with it their feed and nutrition. It's causing warmer waters, which is in turn making them, which is causing them to go deeper into the ocean to feed, because that current is not bringing fish with them now. So climate change is affecting them in a very bad way. Also, feral species such as rats, rabbits, dogs are causing mortalities in the nesting population along the shoreline. Industrial development is also affecting their numbers in a huge amount. So currently there are hardly, I think, 12,000 breeding pairs that are there in the wild, and it is, the number is declining very fast, and not enough efforts are being taken right now to conserve their population. So this is in general about the Humboldt penguins in wild, and I will now go on to how we manage these penguins in captivity. The Mumbai Zoo got 8 Humboldt penguins from an aquarium in Korea in 2016. Uh, these 8 penguins have been with us in this new habitat, new exhibit that we made for them from 2017 up to today. We have 3 breeding pairs, and who started breeding from, I think, 2020. And over the years now we have 11 chicks. So the total number now that we have is 18 Humboldt penguins from 7 penguins. To take care of these birds in captivity, the main thing that we focus on is the habitat. So we try to make the habitat as natural as possible as their wild habitat. As you can see in this photo, there is a rocky shoreline and a pool area. This is rocky shoreline. Yeah, these are the this is the pool which is given to the penguins. These are the first 7 penguins that were bought in the Mumbai Zoo. So we provide them with a variety of different areas in the exhibit so that we can have artificial rock work, which gives them a good area for nesting. The smooth surface which is there is made up of epoxy, which is easier for cleaning. Also, it does not allow any growth of bacteria or funguses. We try to give a natural habitat as much as possible, but we also have to keep in mind the maintenance and how easy it can be to maintain for us. So that's why we also have the smooth epoxy area, which is easy to clean. The nesting areas are there all along the exhibit. They are in the form of caves, which is covered, and the visitors cannot see the penguins inside the nest. So the penguins get good privacy in their nest. They are not disturbed in their breeding season. In the nesting areas, we give them a variety of substrate like sand, pebbles, and sticks. We usually just provide them with the sand, and the pebbles and the sticks are taken into the nest by the penguins as and when they like. Yeah, so this is a better photo of the exhibit. For exhibit maintenance, we clean the exhibit twice a day at least. We don't use any chemicals on a daily basis, because anything that we use on land, it goes in the water. So the exhibit is cleaned by our zookeepers twice a day, with scrubbing the entire exhibit, scrubbing their stools away, and wiping the entire exhibit down. The glass that from where the viewers can see the penguins, that is also cleaned twice or thrice a week. We vacuum the pool every alternate day to remove any fish debris or stools from the pool, so that it does not affect the water quality. We also sterilize the exhibit and fumigate the exhibit every week, so that there are no residual fungal spores, bacteria that are growing anywhere in the exhibit. For our Wednesday cleanings, we use different types of disinfectants on a rotational basis, so that there is no resistance that can happen. And these chemicals are also safe if they go in water, or even if the penguins are there in the exhibit, it is fine if we can fumigate with these chemicals. So that was the habitat and exhibit maintenance. The another important factor that we have to maintain in Mumbai, since it is such a humid and hot environment, is air, water, and light. So we have made a temperature controlled exhibit for the penguins, in which the air that is supplied into the exhibit is 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. The humidity is 55 to 60%. The air that is supplied into the penguin exhibit is filtered, fresh filtered air, which comes from HEPA filters, so that there is no entry of bacteria, fungus, viruses into the exhibit. The air is continuously recycled. There is no stagnant air anywhere inside the exhibit, which can cause growth of fungal spores in the exhibit. The air is also tested by keeping plates all over the exhibit to see if there's any bacterial growth. Water also similarly, bad water quality can directly affect the health of the penguins. So the water quality is maintained at a very high level. We have a entire life support system behind the exhibit, which has a range of filters like sand filter, carbon filter, micron filter, biofilter, UV, and ozone. So all these filters run 24/7 so that the water quality is maintained at an optimal level. We check the water, ammonia, and nitrate levels every day. The pH is also checked every day. The bacterial count is checked once a month or once in 2 months to see that there is no bacterial growth. We never replace the water completely because a little bit of the older water is needed to maintain the nitrogen cycle in the water. Water temperature is also similar to air, that is 15 to 16 degrees Celsius. Another important factor that we maintain is the light cycle. Penguins are very dependent, or any animal is very dependent on the photoperiodic cycle in captivity so that they get a signal of light and dark. So we start switching on the light from 5:36 in the morning. Slowly, we switch one or two lights, and by 7 a.m., all the lights are switched on. There are also windows inside the exhibit from which natural light comes in the exhibit. So they get a good signal that now it is daytime. We follow the same routine for the evening. We start switching off the light by 5:36, and by 7 p.m. it is completely dark inside the exhibit. Their lighting schedule directly affects their reproduction and molting. Directly affects their reproduction and molting. Okay. Now a little bit about their nutrition and diet. So, like I said, in wild penguins, they eat oily fish and crustaceans and cephalopods. So, we try to follow the same in captivity. We can't really get krill and squid much here to give them. So, we provide them with with a diet of oily fish such as sardines and mackerel. We also give them Bombay duck. We have made this diet over the years so that it provides them with a balanced diet. Bombay duck is a very watery fish which provides them with good hydration, whereas mackerels is a very oily fish that provides them with good fat content, fat, vitamin D, and entire whole nutrition is it's a whole fish, so they get a very good nutritional value from mackerel. Each penguin eats about 10 to 20% of their body weight. It varies upon individual preferences, but mostly each penguin eats at least 10% of their body weight. Uh, on an average, they eat about 700 to 800 grams of fish per day per penguin. So, currently, considering we have 18 penguins, we need about 14 to 15 kg of fish per day for these penguins. Their diet and need requirement of fish varies according to the season, varies according to their reproductional status, varies according to their molting status, and just individual preferences. Some penguins, they are more what greedy and they eat a lot. Some penguins eat less, but it is mostly individual preferences, and we know now according to each individual how much they eat. So we alter their diets according to individual preferences also. Reproduction and breeding, it was very difficult for us in the beginning to start their breeding, but over the years we have formed a good standard operating protocol for their reproduction and breeding. So these penguins in our exhibit, they breed mostly from January to October or so. Mostly they breed all around the year, but now since there are so many penguins, they have different seasons according to their molting season. These penguins, they mostly breed immediately after they molt. So most of the adult pairs now, they molt in October, November, and they start breeding from January. So once they start showing signs of interest in breeding, we start providing them with nesting material. We give them sand and pebbles in the nest, and they collect nesting material like sticks, and they keep it in the exhibit. So once the female shows interest in breeding, the male starts preparing the nest for breeding, for mating and breeding. I will show you a video where they collect their nesting material and yeah. So this is how the male usually prepares the nest in the beginning. Once the female finds that the nest is made in a good way and she accepts his nesting and courtship behavior, you can see, I will show you another video where she vocalizes, and finally then she allows him to start mating. The female in this video, you can see she has accepted his nesting material and the nest that he has made, and she calls him, and then they start mating actively. So around 10 to 15 days of continuous mating, they start showing signs of egg laying. After 10 to 15 days of continuous mating, the female lays an egg. She starts gaining weight, and by then we know she's going to lay an egg. And once she lays an egg, we don't disturb the parents at all. We don't go near the nest much. Mostly these penguins lay two eggs. The second egg is laid for 3 to 4 days after the first egg. And the nesting material, once the eggs are laid, are not changed at all till the chick is hatched out of the egg. The incubation period for these penguins is 40 to 42 days, and both the female and the male, they incubate the eggs alternately. On an average, they sit about each parent sits about 24 to 48 hours, and then they switch among themselves. And the one penguin can be with the egg, and one is foraging outside. We usually don't offer fish at the nest during incubation, because if we tend to feed them in the nest during incubation, the parent that is at the nest does not get up to come outside, and they start having fights for switching with each other. But if that parent hasn't eaten much, hasn't eaten in a long time, then we still do feed them at the nest. So around the 38th, 37th, 38th day, we candle the eggs to see if the eggs are fertile. Till the 37th, 38th day, we do not touch the eggs at all. We let them incubate on their own. If they are not incubating on their own, they are leaving the eggs behind, they're ignoring the eggs, they're throwing the eggs out of their nest, then we take the eggs for artificial incubation. So around the 37th, 38th day, we candle the eggs to see if it is fertile or infertile. If it is fertile, the light does not pass through the entire egg, and it is completely dark. By the 38th, 39th day, the chick pips internally inside the egg. After that, it pips externally outside the egg. Once it pips externally, it still takes 2 to 3 days to hatch completely. And this process is done. It is very necessary that this process is done completely by the chick, and we don't assist anything much in the hatching process. There are multiple reasons why we don't assist, is because there are a lot of blood vessels inside the egg, and our assisting can cause the blood vessels to rupture. There is the yolk sac inside the chick, which needs to get absorbed, and it is important for the chick to hatch himself or herself for that yolk to absorb. If it is not absorbed, then again it leads to diseases like yolk sac retention. So we tend to not assist the chicks in hatching, and we wait for the chicks to hatch on their own. I will show a few videos of how they hatch. They first make a small hole on one side, and they start breaking, making a circle, and they break the entire shell. So only thing that we do once it pips externally is touch around its beak to see if it's active and vocalizing. Depending on its vocalizations, if they are good, high pitched, and not the chick does not sound tired, we do not intervene in the hatching process. So once these chicks hatch out of the egg, which is about 40 to 42 days, we weigh the chicks, clean their umbilicus with betadine, and then we hand the chicks back to the parents. So we do a general examination of the chicks, check if they are well hydrated, check their heart rate, check their lungs to see if there is no fluid in their lungs, and then we hand the chicks back to the parents. So these are how day old chicks look. With chicks, also, we try not to intervene much. We mostly let the parents raise their chicks. Additional support that the parents need during feeding of the chicks is we feed the parents more often so that the parents feed the chicks properly. So these penguins usually get 2 feedings per day, but during breeding season, when they have small chicks, they get fed about 4 times a day, or even 5 times a day if they ask for it, because unless the parents are fed, they do not feed the chicks. The parents usually feed the chicks regurgitated fish. They eat fish, they regurgitate it in their stomach, and then they digest it in their stomach, and they regurgitate and feed it to the chicks. So it is very necessary that the parents are well fed and well hydrated. If in case the parents are not feeding the chicks properly, we intervene, and we weigh the chicks according to their weight and hydration. We give them supplemental formula feedings to make sure that their requirements are met. We never overfeed the chicks. We make sure the chicks are fed only 10% of their body weights. Overfeeding and underfeeding both can be equally dangerous. So we have to maintain a very fine line between overfeeding and underfeeding. Once the chicks grow older, as they cross about 10-15 days of age, we usually have to intervene much lesser, and the parents completely rear the chicks on their own. At about 3 to 4 months of age, the parents start trying to breed again and give their next clutch of eggs. And by that time, the smaller chicks, they leave their nest and start mingling with the colony. And by that time, we also start trying to feed the chicks and trying to teach them how to eat from us and how to eat fish like adult penguins. So that's how we have successfully bred these penguins in captivity. Another important phenomenon in penguins is molting. So, molting in other birds is basically shedding of feathers and they get a new coat. But for penguins, it is very different and it is very catastrophic because they have to complete this molting in 10 to 15 days itself. The reason for that is since they have waterproofing with their feathers, when they lose their feathers during molting, they can't go in water and then they can't eat fish. So, that's why they tend to have a weight gain before they start molting, and they eat a lot before they molt, because then they have to fast and not eat for the next 10 to 15 days. They start losing their feathers from their back region, and they start just the head region is left in the end, after which they get a very nice new coat. And once they molt, they immediately start breeding again. Enrichment in penguins. Enrichment is necessary for any wild animal in captivity, since in the wild they spend most of their time foraging for the food. In captivity, they get their food directly to them twice a day. So they have a lot of free time on their hands, and they should not exhibit any stereotypical behaviors. So that's why we have to make sure that they are well entertained during the entire day. So we use different kinds of enrichment in the penguin exhibit. We use food enrichments and other play type of enrichments. So this is a fish cake that we had made for them for one of the penguins' birthday. So during this fish and ice cake, we don't provide them with their usual feeding. We keep this fish cake in the exhibit, and eventually we put that in water. And once the fish thaws, the penguins usually just eat all the fish in water. This is another type of hanging toys enrichment that we had made for them. They also like to chase anything, any ball, any light, any shadows. They like to chase anything. They're very playful birds that way, and we use this laser light very commonly in our zoo. When there were just 7 penguins in the beginning, we didn't have to do a lot of enrichment for them because they were usually very busy with their breeding, reproduction, their colonial disturbances, their fighting with territorial fights. So we didn't have to do a lot of enrichment for them. But now, since we have 11 chicks, chicks are very curious and they need to be kept entertained much more than the adults. They usually play a lot with each other also, and we have also provided them with this kind of wooden enrichment now, which they can play among themselves. This is a tunnel kind of thing that we have made for them, and a bridge. So they spend a lot of time on these wooden enrichment materials also. For veterinary management, we do more of preventive medicine than treatment because treating these penguins in captivity is very difficult. They get stressed out very fast. They're a very scared species. So even a little bit of handling can affect their behavior, and stress in turn causes flare-ups of any other diseases. These penguins are very prone to fungal infections and aspergillosis, so we have to take care of the environment that we protect them. We have to give them preventive medicine like itraconazole every monsoon when the humidity in Mumbai is 90 to 100%, and the fungal spores in the air are a lot. So during these monsoon season, every year we give them a prophylactic course of antifungals. Along with that, we preventive medicine that we do, we give them deworming medicines as and when necessary after checking their stool samples. We follow a strict supplement schedule all throughout the week, so they get their necessary supplements on time. They are mostly dependent a lot on thiamine supplement because most of the thiamine in fish is lost during the thawing process, and they need to get thiamine every day to fulfill their high requirements. Uh, to maintain their general health, we do a weight check of these penguins every week. A weight check is a very non-invasive way for us to check how they are doing. It gives us a good idea if a particular penguin is overfeeding or it's eating less and not getting enough food, and if we need to give them more attention. It also gives us an idea if a female is going to lay or if a particular penguin is going to molt. We can tell just by checking their weight. We do a routine examination once in 6 months. We check their oral mucosa. We take their blood sample, their cloacal and choanal swab, and send it for analysis. That's how we take their blood sample from the interdigital vein. We open their mouth and you can see their choanal papillae, which are specialized in such a way that once they catch the fish, it does not come back the other way. But the mucosa in general has to be a nice pink colored mucosa, and it has to be well hydrated, not sticky. So we make sure it is it is not pale and not sticky during our general examinations. The weight checks, penguins are now trained to come on the weighing scale to check their weight. There is no stress as such for them. They usually get a fish once they come on the weighing scale, and so they know that the weights are checked every Wednesday. Sometimes during territorial fights, they tend to have injuries around their eyes and legs mostly, because even the penguins know that once if they hit each other on their backs, it doesn't really hurt them. They have a very nice fat layer. But if they aim for the eyes or their feet, they tend to have a lot of injuries. We also do stool samples regularly and x-rays to see if there are any problems in these penguins. Since these penguins were brought to India for the first time, it was very difficult to manage them in captivity. No one knew anything, what kind of fish they will require, what kind of habitat they'll require. So in the beginning, I was the only one here, and I had to train a lot of doctors and the zookeepers also to how to clean the exhibit, what materials to use in cleaning the exhibits. So it was very difficult in the beginning to form those SOPs. So now we have fixed SOPs for cleaning, for the reproduction, breeding, for treatments in general, everything. Veterinary challenges also faced by us were in the beginning. There were basic things, like there were no reference ranges for their blood values. So now these penguins over the years have formed a fixed reference range for this colony of penguins and not general what is found online. By taking their samples again and again, I know individual bird values. I know individual reference ranges which I can refer when there is any sickness or illness. That's one of the challenges I faced while working with them. So, conservation of Humboldt penguins in wild and captivity. There are only 24,000, around 24,000 species, birds left, individuals left in the wild now. But not a lot of efforts are being taken to conserve them. A few things that are being done by the Peruvian government is controlling the feral species of rats, of rabbits mainly, to which tend to bite these penguins and break their eggs and predate on the smaller chicks. So they are trying to reduce the numbers of these feral species. They have formed marine protected areas around their exhibits, so around their wild colonies, so that the overfishing and everything does not occur in those in that area, and the penguins can get good amount of fish for their food. um, Climate changes also affect them in a very bad way, so that is a big issue and not a lot can be done about it right now. uh, a main threat for the penguins in wild uh, is the harvesting of guano. So guano is basically penguin stools that the penguins pass, and these penguins, they form burrows and lay nests in these guano. They dig in the guano and they make nests in these small burrows and nests in this guano. So but this guano is a very good fertilizer, and the fertilizer industry used to harvest and remove all of the guano, and the penguins were not able to nest because of harvesting of this guano. So now the government is trying to uh, implement sustainable harvesting of guano so that the penguin population and penguin breeding is not affected in any way. In captivity, what we can do, what we try to do is we breed them in captivity, and so that there are different gene pools available all around the world in case these penguins later go extinct in the wild. We also use this captive population as a useful educational measure in zoos where people don't know anything about penguins or Humboldt penguins for that matter. So when young children come in the zoo, or when even adults, they don't know anything about penguins. So it is a very good education uh, initiative that can be done by the zoo to teach people about penguins, what are penguins and where are they found, because unless the people know about a particular species of animal, you can't expect them to uh, conserve them in any way. And of course, research, since when you have a good population in captivity, you can use this population to do a research on them and extrapolate from these findings so as to save the population in the wild. So that's how we can do a little bit of conservation of Humboldt penguins in wild and captivity. Yeah.
So, thank you, Dr. Madhumita ji, for sharing comprehensive views and valuable insights on penguins. So, it is quite interesting to know about their breeding and also the molting process. So, let's move to the questions asked by the participants. So, the first question is what strategies are employed to address the challenges faced during the breeding season of Humboldt penguins in captivity?
Problems during breeding season.
Yes.
Uh, we haven't really had any problems as such once the breeding has been going quite smoothly. The problems sometimes that occur that the sometimes the parents themselves are very bored to incubate the eggs, and they tend to throw the eggs out of the nest. In such cases, we try to take the eggs away from the parents and we incubate them artificially. Sometimes they don't feed the chicks. They are very aggressive when we come near the nest, and they don't eat fish. And since they don't eat fish, they don't feed the chicks. So in such cases, sometimes we have to keep the chicks with us for feeding them. We have to hand rear the chicks, so that is another problem that can occur in captivity. But mostly we try to maintain the temperature and humidity in the exhibit, so that the incubation by the parents occurs in a good way in their nests. Artificial incubation and hand rearing is very difficult, and we always prefer if the parents do the incubation and rearing.
So, all right. Moving to the second question, like this is quite interesting. So, can you share any experience working with Humboldt penguins in captivity?
Experience means like,
Like any, like your work experience, like how do you feel working with penguins?
okay. So I have been with these penguins since 2016, since the time that they were bought here in Mumbai, and I have seen a huge change in their behavior from when they were bought then, and the adults that were bought at that time and the chicks that are born now at the zoo, there is a lot of difference in their behavior. The adults are still quite aggressive towards us, whereas the chicks are since we raise them and we interact with them quite a lot since they are born, they are much more friendlier. There are particular penguins that have they like a particular person within our team. So we are a team of 8. We have 4 doctors and 4 keepers. And some penguins they like me, some penguins and an individual penguin they like some other doctor. So there is a bond between different individuals of penguins. So it is quite interesting. They're very intelligent birds that way. They are very curious, very inquisitive, and especially the chicks now are extremely friendly. They're not scared of us at all, and they in turn they try to attack us when we go inside the exhibit instead of us being scared of us. So they've changed massively from the time they have come to Mumbai, and they're very comfortable in the environment provided to them.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And it is also quite interesting, and we also feel so excited to see penguins in Mumbai Zoo. So, hope to see them soon again. So, with this, we conclude today's webinar session.
Okay.
On behalf of Indira Gandhi Zoological Park, I thank Dr. Sanjay Tripathi, sir, Director of Mumbai Zoo, Dr. Madhumita, Head Veterinarian, Humboldt Penguin Section, for sharing a valuable insights, information on penguin conservation and management. I also thank Dr. Abhishek, biologist, for coordinating with me with all the information. So I also extend my thanks to Dr. Nandini Salaria, IFS, curator of IGZP, for continuous support to happen the webinar successfully. And also thank our participants for your active participation. Thank you everyone for joining the webinar. Hope it is interesting. Thank you everyone. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.